Well, it was a magical night at Wrigley Field, really day and night, and a win over the Padres. Now the Cubs advance in the playoffs, and they'll take on the Milwaukee Brewers, the series that we wanted to see. Let's talk about everything that happened, the big win for the Cubs, and what's next right here on the Cubs baseball channel. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Hey, let's not even make fun of the Cardinals today. Let's just celebrate and get ready for the Brewers in a best of five. Let's go. Love a best of five. Then you win that one, and then you play two best of sevens. Let's do it all. What do you say, everybody? Mick Gillespie, Cubs baseball channel, and I appreciate you being here. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Spent the majority of my life in love with the Cubs. And so watching them take care of the Padres and win in the postseason made me very, very happy. And I know it did you guys as well. So thank you for being here. Let's get into a few things right off the bat. And let me start by talking about the Cubs beating the Padres 3-1. Jameson Taillon looked so confident coming into this series. And he was talking about it at the end of the season. And it was like, hey, we're here to win. We think we can win. You know, he was the most vocal of Cubs players that felt very confident in what they could potentially do. And he went out there and got the job done. And in these playoff games, the bullpen is used early and often. Both managers did that. Padres, Mike Schitt, and same thing with Craig Counsell, you know, like immediately getting to the bullpen as quickly as you can. But the difference in these games is scoring runs early. And it's imperative for you to get the early runs because you set your bullpen up with it. And the Cubs were able to do that. They got some early runs, and it put pressure on the Padres. The Cubs could have blown them out in the second inning. But Pete Crow Armstrong with a hit ended up doing that a few times in the game. And then, you know, it really felt like the big three are now finally back in the right direction, right? Pete Crow Armstrong struggled, got a bunch of hits. You had Kyle Tucker hurt. You know, he's getting back in the action again. He got some hits. Seiya Suzuki came into the game as one of the hottest Cubs. And when the dust settled, it was a 3-1 win. So a shout out to the late, great Ryne Sandberg. I think somewhere in heaven he's looking down with a smile. A little payback from 1984, the last time the Cubs played the Padres in the postseason. It went to a decisive Game 5, and the Cubs lost. This time it goes to a decisive Game 3, and San Diego beaten in that game. And it's going to be a much different Padres team next year with all the free agents that they're dealing with, the big payroll. And now the Cubs advance, and who cares about the Padres? Now it's on to the next team, and that would be the Milwaukee Brewers. So as we kind of talk about this game, I want to remind you, and we'll get into this later on, that we're going to give tickets away again. We gave tickets away for Game 2, so make sure that if you guys want tickets, that you pay attention, because I'm going to tell you how to qualify for tickets. We'll do some tickets to when the Cubs and the Brewers are at Wrigley Field, and I'm going to give you the schedule here in a second. So we're guaranteed at least one game. Hopefully it's a game where the Cubs are wrapping up the Brewers and getting ready to take on the winner of the Dodgers and the Phillies. I mean, you talk about great match. I feel like this is the best matchup for the Cubs. I really do. That Phillies-Dodgers series is going to be just a battle. And then obviously the Cubs and the Brewers, the two teams that you would want to see matched up. And Milwaukee feels like a home game for us anyway. And so I'm sure a lot of Cubs fans are going to make that short trip and bring the same enthusiasm that we saw the last 3 days at Wrigley. What a great crowd. What a home field advantage for the Cubs. It's really, the fans were fantastic in all three games, and it was a lot of fun. But I thought Taillon was fantastic. Daniel Palencia is been really good, and I know he hasn't been in that closer's role, but he's pitched in some really, really important innings. The bullpen did a great job. You got to give them credit. I know Keller struggled in the ninth inning, but how about Kittredge? 3 straight games the guy pitched. and he got the job done when the Cubs needed it in the ninth inning. And if he would have given up the lead, I don't know who they would have. I mean, it wouldn't have been pretty, So very nicely done by the Cubs bullpen. How about Michael Busch with the home run? The guy's been like kind of an unsung hero, and off until Saturday when the Cubs and the Brewers match up in the first of a best of 5. So we're where we want it to be. And I want you guys to take advantage of this right here. This is where we're going to give our tickets away. And it is AveD. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably going back to the bleachers. I love the bleachers. And if I can't personally go, I want you to go and represent us in the bleachers. Joey did a fantastic job of that in game 2. So maybe game 3 or game 4, we'll decide that coming up. But you guys, all you got to do to qualify, hit that QR code, sign up, play the games. You can win money. You can win gear, Cubs baseball channel, swag, and other stuff. So, and obviously tickets to the playoffs. So thank you guys for being here and doing that. All right, let's talk about what we're looking at playoff schedule-wise, right? So the Cubs and the Brewers will open up on Saturday, October 4th. That's this Saturday, American Family Field. That's game 1, and then Monday's game 2. So the Cubs will have a chance to kind of rest their bullpen because they're playing Saturday, off on Sunday, playing again Monday, off on Tuesday, playing again Wednesday, then Thursday, and then if necessary, Saturday. So you got plenty of time to go ahead and rest your team. Now, I don't know what the status of Cade Horton is going to be for the Cubs moving forward. Could he contribute to this series? It feels like, though, the Cubs will be able to line their pitching up. The bullpen will be rested by the time they take on the Brewers. The other thing is game 1 and game 2 are in Milwaukee. Game 3, if necessary, game 4 at Wrigley Field. And then if there was a game 5, we would go back to Milwaukee again. Cubs have not been intimidated at all by the Brewers. I honestly should have won 4 out of 5 in that series, that 5-game series that they had towards the end of the season, and had them and let them off the hook, I feel like. And I felt like that game was just so pivotal in the Brewers being able to cruise into the division win and the Cubs kind of being out of it, divisional speaking, but ended up with the wild card. So what does that mean? The Brewers have one more game at home than the Cubs at this point. The other thing I really like about this, you get all the nerves out of the way. You've already played 3 games. You've already played one win-or-go-home game. And the Cubs, I think they match up just fine with the Brewers. The Brewers, great pitching, solid defense, not a whole lot of big name players, but, they play excellent defense. Cubs play excellent defense. Cubs have had 3 pressure-packed games. And if the Cubs win one of those first 2 games in Milwaukee, it really changes the feel of the entire series. And so, you'd love to go in there and steal game 1 and see if you were able to kind of just flip the script on those guys. And it happens all the time in the post. Cubs won the regular season with the Brewers 7-6. Think about that. And a couple other things. This is the first time that the Cubs and the Brewers have ever met in the postseason. And I know that a long time the Brewers were in the American League, right? So that's part of it. And then, the expanded playoff happened. But this is a really interesting matchup just because these 2 teams are so close together as far as like distance goes. But and to Milwaukee, the Cubs are their biggest rival, on top of the fact that, you're talking about the distance between the 2. But think about Craig Counsell, who's from Wisconsin, was the Brewers manager, left in 2023, go take on the job as the Cubs manager, and it adds a little extra spice to this playoff matchup, right? So you couldn't ask for any more. Cubs and Brewers to get going in Milwaukee on Saturday, and it'll be just absolutely just crazy atmosphere for that. And I'm looking for a lot of Cubs fans to be there. So anyway, that's where we are right now. The big 3 had to step up for the Cubs. They did that. That's a great sign for what we're seeing right now with this team. And it's a couple more days for Kyle Tucker to get healthy and to, he kind of worked himself back into big league pitching. Love the defense. Dansby Swanson, what an incredible defensive series. I mean, you talk about ramping your game up. My goodness, man. Him and Nico in middle infield. And don't look past that play that Matt Shaw made in the 9th inning. I mean, you got a shortstop playing third, so he's got a ton of range. And it was like a really tough play. And he gets over there, kind of double clutches, and then throws a bullet to first base to get that out, the second out in that Padres game 3 win. So love the way that the defense played. I loved watching Pete Crow Armstrong get the final out and then turn around and kind of celebrate with the bleachers. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. So you got 2, now you need, if you get 3 more, then guess what? You're playing for a chance to go to the World Series. And that would be for the first time since 2017. So this is the first time that the Cubs have won a series since 2017, and they won a thriller to go to the championship series when they took on a really good Nationals team who would eventually win the World Series a couple of years later. So a big step for the Cubs and the matchup that we wanted. I feel like the Brewers are beatable. That's no disrespect to them. I think Pat Murphy's one of my favorite managers that's not in a Cubs uniform. I think he tells it like it is. These two teams are in, I'd say Milwaukee's really in the Cubs media market. Probably don't like that too much. Always overshadowed by the Northsiders. And now here they are head to head in this contested matchup. What do you think the starting pitching is going to be? I think Matthew Boyd, again, would go game 1. The question is, will Cade Horton be available to the Cubs? Of course, with the rib injury. It's Shota Imanaga, a guy that you would want to pitch in Milwaukee, or are you going to save him? What about Colin Ray, the former Brewer? You're going to throw him in this matchup as a starter? Any more of these openers? And I think these are all questions that I don't think we can answer right now. But how about the job that the bullpen did for the Cubs? Got just enough offense, and here we go, taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. So, guys, thank you again for being here. Make sure that you hit that QR code and you sign up and play the games and get yourself qualified for a chance to win tickets to the divisional series against the Brewers at Wrigley Field, because we're giving them away. What a great win. Cardinals, hey, I know you didn't – I want to say this. I know you guys really walked Michael Busch because you were worried he might get a home run off of you and you were still in the game. You didn't do it because you didn't want him to have the cycle, and that's fine. And I know that you guys are at home right now thinking about that and enjoying watching some postseason baseball. And we're enjoying it too. But congratulations to the Cubs. Let's get in that comment section. Tell me what you guys think. What was the best play of the entire playoffs? What was that first round? If you said, what was the kind of the marquee moment? I can still remember when the Cubs made their World Series run and Javi Baez hit that ball into the basket to win that game early on. And it was like, the Giants were so good back then, and they had this streak where they were winning the World Series every other year. And that was a tough series. And I think it was off of Johnny Cueto, right? And he puts it in the basket, and you're like, man, we could never get that guy, but we got that one home run. And I felt like that was just one of the key moments in that World Series run. In this series, what's the moment that you remember the most that is going to stick out to you as far as the Cubs and what they were able to do? Was it Pete Crow Armstrong's go-ahead hit? Was it Dansby Swanson's leaping catch? Or some of the amazing plays that he made? Was it Nico Horner's catch that he made? What was it that stuck out the most to you guys? And let me know in the comment section. But thanks for being here. And I'm fired up. I know you are too. I'm on my way to Vegas. We'll be doing these shows out there as well. I mean, we're going to be keeping a close eye on the Cubs, including this showdown Saturday. But I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and let's go. Next round. Advance, survive, and advance. That's what they say. All right, go Cubs.